Hey guys, Dave from Ryan Sports News. This week we're going to discuss the opening of the NFL season. Today's topics is in regards to the injuries that happened during training camp and also leading up to the very first week of the NFL season, and also to the waiver wires add and drops that are coming into this season. Very excited to see that the season's finally going to be here. A few months ago, obviously with COVID going around, we had no idea we're going to have sports in general, but football is here and it's here to stay. Week 1, we got the matchup of the week with the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. So obviously that means fantasy football is kicking off. So that means we got to start kicking off and letting you know who we should get and who should we pay attention to as far as the injuries that are coming up this week. And also those waiver wires that you need to add those last minute players to kind of cover yourself to help you win each week. But without further ado, let's get it started, guys. All right, so NFL Week 1 injuries. Not very many injuries as far as what I was surprised to see as far as many players being out because of injury. Some were obviously more than others that it impacts their team. So let's take a look and see who the first person is on this list. First person on this list will be DeAndre Hopkins of the Arizona Cardinals. He just was traded this offseason for David Johnson. So to see that he is on this injury report is kind of surprising, but obviously it does say undisclosed. So it could just be something as far as something very small and minor, nothing too big for himself. He is on the new team, so he has every reason to be there Week 1. He just signed a new contract, being the highest, if not the highest paid player in the NFL. That's not a quarterback. And he is the Arizona Cardinals' #1 receiver. And he's one of the best in the receivers in the NFL. So there's no reason not to have the confidence that he will be there Week 1. He is the most versatile. He can go make those big catches. He puts up stats. So you want to put him as your #1 receiver starting this week for him. All right, so we got number 2. We got Mr. Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Mixon, he had a head injury. He's questionable coming into this game. Expect him to start. He should be a safe bet in fantasy. Joe Mixon also in the offseason did sign a contract extension with the Bengals. He wants to stay there for a long period of time. So he wants to live up to those expectations of that 4-year contract extension that he was given to by the Bengals. He's also been putting over 1,000-yard stats for the past couple years. So it's nice to see that they're rewarding him for all of his hard work. He also has a new quarterback named Joe Burrow. I'm sure everybody's heard of Joe Burrow. He's a Heisman Trophy winner from LSU, won a national championship, and led the offense at LSU and set records just being a quarterback from passing. So to have him in the mix with Joe Mixon will obviously help out Joe Mixon in his transcendence of his play this year. Next person that's on this list is Melvin Gordon. To see him in a different uniform is very, very strange. Knowing him from obviously when he was in San Diego, when the Chargers were in San Diego, now with the LA Chargers, he took off obviously and wanted to expand his horizons and be able to start and obviously get paid for himself. So he went to the Denver Broncos that didn't really have a solidified starter. I mean, you can say Philip Lindsay was that solidified starter for him. But to see Melvin Gordon on this team, and he will be splitting time obviously with Philip Lindsay, he is a risky start just because of that. Splitting that time with Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay has been putting up very good stats for the Denver Broncos. So he has the ability to catch the ball. He has the ability to run the ball. And if Jordan can show that same production he did have whenever he was with the LA Chargers, he will get that start. Oh, obviously. He was, a couple of years ago, he was putting up very good stats. He was very competitive. And he also was probably one of the better running backs in the NFL a few years ago. He did sit out most of last year due to contract stalls. He was trying to get that big payday. He didn't get it, obviously, from them. That's why he's with the Denver Broncos now. So pay attention to him coming into this season. He is a start, I would say, for himself. I did say he's risky, but you can't go wrong with him each and every week. If you have a flex option, maybe use him there. If you have a 3 running back set, maybe possibly put him in there. But definitely keep an eye on him to put him in as a starting role for it. Next guy on my list will be DeAndre Swift of the Detroit Lions, the rookie out of Georgia. He has some potential, and he's slated to be started on the opening day according to the depth chart. But likely will share the rock with Kerryon Johnson. Starting him in his fantasy as a rookie will be obviously very risky in the first week of the season, not seeing how the game speed is, and plus having two other running backs on the roster, Kerryon Johnson, and now the newly signed Adrian Peterson, future Hall of Famer, who was just released by the Washington football team this past week. So he's definitely going to take away his carries, his potential to be able to do that. But I do feel that if DeAndre Swift can get into a good rhythm and able to stay healthy, obviously, would be a big question, obviously, for himself. Because it didn't really disclose what his injury was, but he's questionable up and lead into the game. So DeAndre Swift, I would say probably not start him if you don't have to, if you have other options. Flex options, if you have very deep, if you have a lot of... My next person on this is Devontae Parker from the Miami Dolphins. Devontae Parker, according to reports, he should be good to go after seeing he was a full participant at practice on September 8th. Parker is clearly the most skilled player on that Dolphins team. He is the top receiving threat in the passing game for the Miami Dolphins. Miami obviously has a rookie quarterback that he just drafted. He's not going to get the start. It's going to be Ryan Fitzpatrick going into this year. Parker is a good wide receiver 2 or flex option in most fantasy leagues. We'll know more about his injury after Wednesday being released to find out if he actually is going to go play for the Dolphins this coming week. But he is definitely a beast whenever he is healthy and able to play. Another familiar face, Golden Tate, the wide receiver from the New York Giants. Over the past 3 seasons, Golden Tate has missed significant time, has not played a full season since 2017. Tate continues that trend with having an injury at the start of the season. So obviously seeing him on this injury report is not a good sign for any team or any fantasy football owner. Golden Tate is a solid wide receiver when he's healthy. He's put up over 1,000 yards, receiving 3 times in the last 7 seasons. Just a few seasons ago, he had 90 receptions and has not been able to get over 50 due to injury. He only played in last year. He only played in 7 games last year. So he is a very risky bet, but he is targeted when he is on the field with 85 total targets in 2019. So obviously they want to get him the ball when he's on the field, but it's very difficult to see him on the field. So Golden Tate, I wouldn't necessarily start him this week. Just to kind of see where his health is. He did have a hamstring injury for the first week in the season. All right, so next person on the list is Miles Sanders from the Philadelphia Eagles, running back. He is questionable. Rookie sensation last year. He was a second-round pick, so he was able to exceed his expectations being a second-round pick. He had over 800 yards last year. 3 touchdowns. He had to step into a big role last year. The Eagles lost pretty much their entire receiving core, so he was heavily counted on last year for the Philadelphia Eagles to generate some sort of offense. He is a safe bet for a running back coming into this year, even with the injury being on this report. So to see him this year will be a fantastic thing to see, seeing what he can do in year 2. His injury was a lower body injury, so it could be a little bit of a question mark for some, but I feel very confident that he is going to be able to start this coming year off on the right foot for them. Next person is Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel, as I've said this in the previous video, one of my favorite wide receivers to watch. He is going to have a great year even with his injury. He had a little bit of an injury in the offseason, not football related of any kind, but he had a foot injury. He just got activated from the active non-football injury list, so he's kind of still catching up from the offseason because they did have their offseason workouts, training, so he's still trying to catch up with that, but he'll be fine coming to this year. I may be a little hesitant to say start him this week just because of that injury's coming, trying to catch his legs, trying to get everything kind of going and trying to get back acclimated to the NFL season of the grind for it. He was also a second-round pick, exceeded expectations, kind of came on the scene for him. He had 81 targets last year. He had 3 touchdowns, 802 yards. I predict he will be a 1,000-yard receiver this coming year, and he will be utilized in a lot of different ways with the offense. He can run the ball. He did that in the Super Bowl, so I expect him to kind of do that, kind of mix it up for this coming year during the actual season. He is a dynamic. He's quick. He can make quick catches, slide up in the slot, kind of line up on the outside. So he's very versatile in his position, being a wide receiver. So expect big things from him this coming year. Just maybe week 1, kind of hold off if you can try to find somebody else to kind of hold the spot, kind of see where he's at for this next week, and we'll keep an eye on him to see how he's doing. All right, so A.J. Brown, the Tennessee Titans rookie, he also is a good receiver. He was picked up actually in the second round as well too. So he had over 1,000 yards last year, 84 targets, 8 touchdowns. So he definitely exceeded expectations. His injury was not disclosed. He should be ready for week 1 according to his coach. So he is a must start and a flex option. Maybe not a number 1 receiver just yet. But like I said, let him see where his year 2 is. Sometimes with the year 2, with any position of any rookie, they kind of have a step back year. So he should be good to go. Maybe wait till the middle of the year, maybe even the second game of the year to kind of see where he's at for his year. All right, so Amari Cooper from the Dallas Cowboys. Amari Cooper is the number 1 receiver with the Dallas Cowboys. He's probably, I would say, second option in the offense. Ezekiel Elliott obviously takes the cake for that one. He's questionable coming into week 1 for the very first game. He's missed a couple of games in the past few seasons for various injuries. He kind of flames on and off, but whenever he's on, he's on. Has good chemistry with Dak Prescott. He's had over 1,000 yards receiving in 3 of the last 6 seasons that he's been in the NFL. So he is definitely a wide receiver 2, I would say, more likely for him. He had 8 touchdowns last year for the Dallas Cowboys. He's targeted almost 120 times last year. So when they go to the passing game, he is definitely someone that Dak Prescott is definitely looking for. So he is a must start in this coming week, even being questionable for the Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Cooks, the receiver that was acquired from the LA Rams this past season, he has been kind of inconsistent. He's healthy. He'll come in and play, but he's definitely not the same player. You can definitely see when he's hurt in the offense. Last year definitely was a down year compared to the previous 4, which he had over 1,000 yards receiving. And in 2018, he had 1,200 yards receiving. Last year, he only got 583 and 42 receptions with 2 touchdowns. So he took a step back, and they expect him to possibly be their number 1 receiver with DeAndre Hopkins now in the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm not really confident in his abilities just yet. I want to really see kind of how he fits the mold and see if he can actually be that number 1 receiver on a team. I don't think he has it. I would not probably start him, me personally. But if you have a pretty deep flex option, I would say he's more likely like a very deep receiver also too. He is not someone that's going to put up a lot of fantasy football points. I'll put it that way for you, and I would probably be hesitant to put him through for that. All right, and just to kind of finish everything off, these are my add and drop waiver wire people, players that I have selected. Jimmy Garoppolo is my very first person that I would say would add to the team. Jimmy G, they're playing the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals last year had one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL. They were ranked 29th in the NFL. They gave the most points to quarterbacks last year. And last year, whenever he played the Arizona Cardinals, he had the most passing attempts. He had 45 in one game and 37 during the season. So second and third most attempts in the season. So he is going to be someone you want to add and start this week. During the fantasy football season, he almost averaged 30 points a game against the Cardinals. He had 4 touchdown passes in each game, 317 yards in one and 424 in the other. So he is a must-add this coming week, especially playing the Cardinals and how bad their defense was. Granted, the Cardinals did add Isaiah Simmons in the mix. I don't think that's going to make a big difference. It's mainly their defensive backs. Patrick Peterson is back at full strength, so he did miss, obviously, most of the season last year. So that could be a factor in this game, but I think that they're still going to be able to kind of pass and kind of do what they want in years past for the San Francisco 49ers. So look for Jimmy G and add him onto your team and put him as your starting quarterback this coming. The next person on my list is Sony Michel from the New England Patriots. They're playing the Miami Dolphins, and as you know, the Miami Dolphins are not a very good football team in general. The good thing about Sony Michel is that Damon Harris did have to go on the IR, so he's going to be taking mainly the first team reps during practice this past week. So Sony Michel is coming back from a foot injury that could possibly get re-injured. just kind of keep an eye on that, but he's probably a safe option to put in that starting role if you need him to be. He's going to get the bulk of the carries. They're saying they're going to try to ease him into it, but I can kind of see that going both ways. He's going to get the running plays mostly. James White will get the receiving duties, and Rex Burkhead will take some carries away from him, but Sony Michel will be the main person for it because the Dolphins did rank 21st in defense last year. They gave up 1,600 yards in rushing to running backs last year, and 247 carries for Sony Michel in 2019 on 912 yards rushing. He is a must-add for that. In the games that he did play against the Miami Dolphins, he did have 12.3 points and 13 4-point points. So he's going to get his carries. He's going to get his bulk of his points, being handed the ball for the team in the very first game in the NFL season. All right, so my final person on this list, I would say probably a drop and not an add at all, would probably be Adrian Peterson, the Detroit Lions. Kind of weird to say from the Detroit Lions. He was released from the Washington football team in the last couple weeks in favor of Antonio Gibson and how much progress he was able to make. Adrian Peterson is the third running back in the depth chart according to the Detroit Lions football site. Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift will get the most of the reps for this coming year and also going forward. He's just mainly there for security blanket insurance just in case one of them does get hurt. He only had 147 points in a PPR league and 211 attempts last year and only had 898 rushing yards. Again, he was released by the Washington football team. I just feel he's just kind of doing this to pad his stats in his Hall of Fame career. He's a great running back. In the beginning, he was hurt, so he may have a little bit left in the tank to be able to prove to everybody that he can still run. But I kind of feel this might be the end for Adrian Peterson for himself. So don't add him if you have him. Drop him if you do. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for tuning in for that. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Otherwise, I'll catch you later on the next one.